I'm Chelsea Manning, and I approve this message.
We live in trying times. Times of fear. Of suppression. Of hate. We don't need more or better leaders. We need someone willing to fight. We need to stop asking them to give us our rights. They won't support us. They won't compromise. We need to stop expecting that our systems will somehow fix themselves. We need to actually take the reins of power from them. We need to challenge them at every level. We need to fix this. We don't need them anymore. We can do better. You're damn right we got this.
Good evening, and this is Action for Assange. This is not a full free Assange vigil. This is us coming at you with some breaking news. I'm Steve Poikinen. I am joined tonight by my good friend Andrew Smith and by Misty Weston. We are celebrating the release of Chelsea Manning from the William Truesdale Detention Center in Alexandria, Virginia, where we were at 2 weeks ago yesterday. Just kind of blown away by all of this. Not only was Chelsea Manning ordered to be released, but Jeremy Hammond's contempt charge was thrown out. He will now be turned over to the Bureau of Prisons, where he will go back to the minimum security facility he was in Oklahoma, I'm guessing, to serve out the remainder of his sentence there, which was relatively short time. On top of that, the 10-year-long WikiLeaks grand jury has been dismissed. And that's something that I can't wait to get into with Andrew and Misty. So without any further ado, let's jump into that.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everyone that it is 68 days until Julian Assange's second round of extradition hearings. And I just want to thank everybody before we jump all the way in for coming in and joining us tonight, because this is super, super special, and it's literally one of the most important things. So I'm particularly honored to be able to tell people like Chelsea Manning is free again.
Can we just talk about how crazy that is, though? Can we really break it down? Because I know we were just talking about it a little bit ago. I'm a little like, I don't really know what to think. Like, I want to be super excited, but I'm like also like, okay, what's coming? Because there's so much. Like, I'm so used to everything being such shit that now it's like Chelsea's free and Jeremy got good news and the WikiLeaks thing is dropped and it's all at once, and I'm like overwhelmed by awesome, kind of. And I'm a pessimist, so I'm trying to like balance myself out. So let's talk about it. What does this mean? Like, for real, what does this mean?
So what I hope, because they've done this to Chelsea before, which fucking disgusts me. First time after the military shit, they let her out for about 18 months. She ran for Senate, which is where that ad came from. They put her into jail for 3 or 4 or 5 months. After that 18-month period, she was out for a week. They put her back in jail, and today was day 365. She had a suicide attempt last night, so I do hope that she is doing better and feeling better with this good news. But I hope that the independent media will grab this and run. Because if not, if we cannot get Chelsea Manning as free put across literally the political spectrum of independent content creators, they're going to try to scoop her up again. Because the way that her sentence was commuted, it didn't ignore the fact that those things happened or give her a pardon from them. It just said, hey, you can come out of jail now, but all of these things that we say happened still stand.
And so, as a final fuck you too, the judge also ordered that the $256,000 in fines that they have levied on her, she still has to pay. So on the Action for Assange Twitter page, there's a link to a GoFundMe that's being organized. I can't remember who organized it, but it's for Chelsea Manning to be able to pay, some of this down. I would imagine that the Courage Foundation will have a link up soon.
They have one. Is the one you're talking about the Action Network one?
No, this is by Kelly Wright, I believe.
Okay, because there's also one on the Action Network, and it went from like 6,800 maybe 85 donors to right now it's at 7,233. I've been tweeting that one out. So
yeah, whatever's like the most official one. That was just the one that one of my friends had sent me. But yeah, so the hope here is that one, we can raise enough money and that Chelsea gets enough money to not go to jail for not being able to pay these fines. And two, that they don't just bring her in on another grand jury. So the big news, the biggest news out of all of this is that the 10-year-long grand jury against WikiLeaks has officially ended, according to the WikiLeaks Twitter page. And the other the other monumental successes that came out of this are Chelsea Manning's getting freed. Jeremy Hammond is being returned to his, for I think it's Oklahoma, if I remember properly. Getting sent back to that jail to serve out the remainder of his time for the sentence he was previously in, which I believe was for the Stratford leaks. So that's like, this is monumental. Like the fact that the entire grand jury itself has been dismissed against WikiLeaks after over a decade at this point is, to me, hopeful.
okay, so what do you think is going to happen next? Like what? Oh, sorry. What do you think is going to happen next? I forgot he was up there.
So I don't know. I really don't, because this doesn't necessarily mean that the charges against Julian are getting dropped. It means that they couldn't break Chelsea and Jeremy, essentially, because they were in there and serving under this grand jury's contempt of court for not testifying against Julian. So it just means that they realize they can't break these people in this way, that their monopoly on violence can't be used to torture these people to get the answers that they're looking for. And in Chelsea's case, already have from her original court trial.
So here's where we need to get, I don't know, kind of deeper into it, because yes, they can still convene a grand jury. Yes, they can still haul her before it. We know what's going to happen. But the implications with the WikiLeaks grand jury itself being dismissed, like the part of me that still has like any kind of hope, that part thinks that it's because the case against Julian Assange itself is built on fucking bullshit and lies. And people are noticing. And people are noticing that have not noticed before and are starting to talk about it. Misty and I were talking about this off camera. But Mohammed El-Mazi, friend of the show, just wrote a story about an article about the International Bar Association speaking out for the treatment of Julian Assange. We have entire governments of countries releasing statements through their parliament. We've got the European Council releasing a statement. We've got doctors for Assange. We've got lawyers for Assange. We've got an activism base that is working feverishly to figure out how to deal with how we're going to handle all of this with the coronavirus going on. And we're going to be just cranking out content, letting you guys know, not forget. But what do you got? Like, what do you think? Do you think that because Sleepy Josh, who's on the ones and twos tonight, again, a lot of love for Sleepy Josh. He does a hell of a job. Um, he thinks they've got all the false information that they need so they can dismiss the grand jury, which I generally agree with. But I also think that because this case is a fucking, three-dimensional walkthrough of the breakdown of rule of law, like people are starting to notice that.
Yeah, I mean, you can only drag someone into jail 3 times for the same exact charges before someone kind of gets a little questionable about it. There was actually a good piece that Christina Assange had linked to, if we could get that pulled up. It's titled "Federal Judge Orders Chelsea Manning's Release from Jail." So I just want to give a big thank you to the person that wrote this. I don't remember off the top of my head who the author's name is, if either of you guys do. Kevin
Castola.
Yeah. But so I'm just going to take it from the top here and we can read down a little bit through it. Federal Judge Anthony Trenga ordered a jail in Alexandria, Virginia to release the United States Army whistleblower Chelsea Manning. The order came after the grand jury investigating WikiLeaks was dismissed. Manning was confined for 365 days or 1 year after being held in civil contempt because she refused to testify before the grand jury and planned to investigate WikiLeaks. She attempted to commit suicide on March 11th, which was yesterday as of recording this video. During her time in jail, Manning accumulated $256,000 in fines. She faced $500 per day for the first 30 days. That increased to $1,000 per day until she was released. Trenga refused to waive these fines. She will still owe over $250,000. In August, Trenga ruled Manning has the ability to comply with the court's financial sanctions or will have the ability after her release from confinement. Therefore, the imposed fines of $500 a day after 30 days and $1,000 a day after 60 days is not so excessive as to relieve her of those sanctions or to commute the punishment rather than coercive measures. So the judge made it super obvious that literally said it like, you're paying this shit. And it's fucked up because she literally paid 70% of her adult life at this point to these people. She spent over 7 years in jail. She spent over a year in solitary confinement. She was refused gender reassignment surgery and therapy as she started to transition there. So this entire thing, this entire circus that's been built around her, short of this $250,000 in fines, is finally starting to come down and finally starting to let up a little bit, because it doesn't seem like the grand jury is going to reconvene on here. To continue down through the article a little bit, though, Manning's legal team challenged the court. She said no personal savings, an uncertain speaking career that has been abruptly halted by her incarceration, and is moving to her fellow belongings in storage as she can no longer afford to pay her rent. Furthermore, according to her legal team, Manning attempted to share her financial records with the federal court in an effort to show that she has debt and compromised earning capacity, which left her balance sheets near zero. The court apparently never completed the financial assessment of her ability to pay the fines. While Manning was in jail, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture, Niels Melzer, condemned the U.S.'s government's coercive measures against Manning. Melzer suggested authorities intentionally inflicted progressively severe mental and emotional suffering for the purposes of coercion and intimidation at the order of judicial authorities, and it compounded Manning's post-traumatic stress symptoms and other mental and physical health problems, which she still experiences as a result of prior abuse she endured while she was imprisoned for releasing the documents to WikiLeaks. I condone that such deprivation of liberty does not constitute the circumscribed sanctions for specific offenses, but that an open-ended, progressively severe measure of coercion, fulfilling all the consecutive elements of torture and other cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment, Melzer declared. In the second time in the past 10 years that the UN officially condemned the U.S. government's cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment against Manning.
Yeah, I think when you were just reading off like everything she's been through, 7 years in prison, a year in solitary, like she's been through, if I let myself think about it, I freak out a little bit. Like she's been through so much, and like it's horrifying, honestly. Like it's hard for me to like wrap my head around. It really is. Like she's been through so much, and now it's like there's this tiny little, like, well, it's huge, but still the pessimist in me is like I feel like there's no way it can be that this is just it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this part of me that is like, this is not it, and they're going to come back for her at some other time, and it's really hard for me to stay positive, guys. They've fucked us over so many times.
After the history that they have and the way that they treat Chelsea just over and over again, like I agree with that. And that's why I really want to see the wagon get circled here. Like last night, if you watched Jimmy Dore's live stream, they were literally like, where the fuck is our leader? Like, we need someone to stand up to these people. She just got released from prison.
Yeah. I still can't believe it. Like, I'm a little, like, I can't believe it. Like, it's so hard for me because I'm like super excited and like happy, but
the struggle now is to make sure that we can keep her out of jail by any means necessary. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, whether
we've talked about this before. People need to get loud. Like, this is a huge issue, guys. This is the freedom of the press, the ability to, call out like crimes, war crimes being committed by your country in your name. Like, I want to know that shit's going on. So it's huge. And the implications of it are overwhelming. Like, I mean, I've said it before when we've talked a couple weeks ago. I feel like this is a turning point. Like, this is a turning point. Like, whatever we choose to do in this moment, it's going to have long-lasting influences.
I agree with that 100%. This is the biggest press freedom trial in our lifetime, certainly, and certainly for an extended period of time before that. Like, you kind of have to go back to Eugene Debs being thrown into prison under the Espionage Act for speech. Not hurting anybody, not spying on people, but for speech. And
the particular speech, real quick, if I could, and I'll pass it right back.
Yeah.
That caveat to the First Amendment that got built out because of Eugene Debs was explicitly that you cannot discourage recruitment from the military. And this was 1917, right after the Espionage Act was
1918, I think.
1918. In the height of World War I, he was literally a union organizer that was going around saying, don't fucking join these bankers' wars because you shouldn't join the bankers' wars. And we are now not allowed to tell people not to join the military. And most people don't even know that. Like, most people don't realize that by telling someone, hey, Misty, you shouldn't join the military, that I just violated federal law.
I've done that before too. My brother wanted to go into the Marines when he was 18, and I spent months talking him out of it. Absolutely not. No. Like, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. This, like we've talked about it before, this just feels like such a big moment, and it's really hard for me to understand why people aren't taking it more serious, I guess. Because I'm freaked out by it, guys. Like, it's a big deal. Like,
yeah,
it's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, it's not like the government has done a lot to earn our trust in this aspect. You know, it's not like they've done a lot to earn Chelsea's respect in this. She made it very, very clear why she wasn't going to testify in front of a grand jury. And Jeremy Hammond did the exact same thing. Like, they knew that they weren't getting shit out of those two. They knew that anyone that they brought in for that WikiLeaks jury, they weren't going to get shit out of them. 10 years of the exact same statements over and over and over. So let's like appreciate for a minute just how unflinching Chelsea Manning and Jeremy Hammond are. Like, that's some fucking backbone.
That it is like that. I can't, like, I was talking to my mom about it the other day, actually, and I'm like, you know, I have tried to put myself in their position, and I've tried to think, like, could I do this? Like, could I knowingly put myself in this situation? And I would like to be able to say that I could, but holy shit, what they've had to endure. Like, I don't know, like, you're right, Steve, it's backbone. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, again, I'd like to think that I could be that cool, but I don't like it. That seems overwhelming.
It seems superhuman.
It does.
Like, for someone to go through all of that and still say fuck you to those people is like, that is beyond respect to me, because that is what I like strive to emulate, is having the ability to do that. Do you have the tweet, Josh, from WikiLeaks about the grand jury dismissal real quick? I don't know if that's getting pulled up. But
I
yeah,
am really excited about that too, though. Like, that seems okay. So what do you guys think that means? Like, where are we going with that? What do you think? I'm curious.
I always thought that Chelsea was there. They had to get this information to prosecute Julian. I had no like backing or belief or evidence behind that, but that was just always my feeling. That was, if Chelsea can manage to pull this through and not break under these conditions, that it would basically not let the US pursue Julian for these charges as well. Because it also came out in court, a lot of the shit that they were kind of asking about what Julian was facing, because I believe it got revealed that there was a second account that was being used for downloading videos and movies and just shit like that Julian may or may not have helped her set up. I have to double check to make sure that, because that was in the opening arguments and came out a little bit more later in the week. But I think this also allows, if it's possible, Chelsea Manning to be a witness in Julian's case about what is going on. So I think that may also be a really silver lining. What about you, Steve?
It could be called, right? I mean, assuming there's not a complete and total travel ban, you know? And that brings up another thing. Like, I'm skeptical by nature of this. Like, Chelsea Manning gets released, Jeremy Hammond gets his contempt charge dismissed, WikiLeaks grand jury disappears a year to the day after they brought Chelsea in. Like, it sets off bells, you know? And I want to take the win tonight. I do. Like, I really want to take the win. I think it's fucking way past time.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one that feels that way, though, Steve. Thank you. Because, like, I really want to be super excited, but then there's this part of me that is like, they're fucking with you. You know what I mean? Like, I
don't even care if they're fucking with me.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
I care if they're fucking with her.
Yeah, no, obviously. Yes, of course,
yeah.
obviously. But I just mean in terms of, like, what does this mean, like, big picture? It, like, I really want to think that this is like the tide is turning and we're heading in like and then the other part thinks that this is not where they're going to leave it and something else is going to happen. Like, it's just, It's like you've been in an abusive relationship and you just like keep expecting worse shit to come along because that's what they've been doing to you for the past 10 years, you know? Like it's hard. It's so hard to like just take the win and be happy.
No, I
So,
get it, but I think that like, so if you go back to Susie Dawson's Freeing Julian Assange Part 3, where she talks about like some of the things that you need to do as an activist, self-care is a big part of that. We don't do it enough in this community. We just don't. Like we are habitually listening to other people and trying to talk to other people, like, and let them work through their shit, but we rarely take any time to ourselves. And even if when we have friends that work through our shit with us, like, we still don't, you know. So I think it, like, we have to take the win on this.
Absolutely.
You know. And we can worry about tomorrow, but I also think that we need to be fully aware that we're dealing with a completely criminal intelligence agency, multiple intelligence agencies, and multiple criminal governments who up until now have shown no regard whatsoever for the rule of law. In fact, like inventing shit in order to pursue the prosecution of Julian Assange for publishing war crimes, for publishing the crimes of empire. That's then the retaliation that regular people have been showing and have been showing in force lately can't be ignored. It can't be dismissed as not having at least some sort of ripple effect for what took place today. I honestly believe that.
Absolutely. I just really hope that we can get people to get louder, I guess. Hopefully. We've talked about that. And
I reached out to, I don't want to use any names, but to a lot of influential independent media figures, leaders in the progressive movement, leaders in the Libertarian Party. So I'm hoping that we can create this wave and create this change and make this happen. But to kind of turn gears a little bit to how we plan on doing this. First of all, I refuse to give up the freedom of association because it is the other half of the First Amendment, along with the free press. A lot of what we're going to be hearing from the mainstream media and a lot of what we're already hearing is the need for large, full-scale government intervention into the events of the coronavirus and what the fuck's happening now. And the best we can do is respond to the situations that we're given. So starting next week, what we're going to do every Thursday night, between 6 and 7 o'clock p.m. In your respective time zones. Maybe it'll change, maybe it'll turn into something bigger, but we're going to start doing an online organization event. Whether it's making phone calls that day, whether it's handwriting letters at the same time, whether it's sending emails to consulates and embassies and people in positions of power around the world. We're going to try to get that happening every Thursday between 6 and 7 in your time zone. And hopefully it'll start with a community focus, local representatives, the people in your city, literally calling your neighbor down the street that's also in their house and saying, hey, did you know what's going on with this? Hey, would you like to help me out organizing for this? Hey, do you think next Thursday we could do some phone calls together, you in your house, me and mine? And try to use this as a way to create something bigger to happen out of this, and then build it to the point where you have state representatives speaking out, you have city councils speaking out, and then move it up to where the federal government can't ignore it because it's not only pressure applied at the top of the pyramid. So that's something that we hope in the future you'll join us in. We're also going to be doing a lot of random video projects, like fully prepared video releases of interviews as well as of informational content, because we had planned teach-ins, and I had coordinated with groups. I don't know where we stand with the Free Press Club in DC, but a lot of these smaller groups, they're not gathering because of the virus and because of the bans and things like that.
Yeah,
so
DC's getting pretty clamped down on.
So we may
And
have.
why wouldn't it? Because it came to fucking CPAC.
Which we narrowly missed. We almost fucking went there.
Yeah, we were that freaking close to being at CPAC Thursday night. And then we were thinking about doing it Friday night, but it turns out that a buddy of mine from when I lived in Colorado and I was playing music all the time, that I was in a couple of different bands with, was playing at some little tiny bar in Annapolis, which was like 35 miles up the road or something. So instead of going to CPAC that night, we went to go see Brant play and fucking narrowly avoided coming into contact with the coronavirus.
And that was my first attempt at flipping a bar too.
Oh yeah.
I actually got, and this is something I recommend for everyone to practice and everyone to try. If you're at a place that has like a small-ish bar with live music, walk up to the band and ask, hey, do you mind after you're done, if I could say a couple words, like obviously not while they're in the middle of playing music, and just say what's happening to Julian, say the situation that's going on right now. I was met by a lot of like, girl, and then there was one lady that was like, fuck you. So it happens. It wasn't my best fucking speech in front of a bunch of people, but I want to learn how to flip rooms because I want to be able to tell people Julian Assange is facing 175 years in prison for the crime of revealing United States war crimes, and be able to have people understand why it is so important. So if you are still in a place that has, or that can get to a bar, and there's live music there, ask if you can use the microphone. Yeah.
And also, I've talked about on here before too, like you can literally do, like I always say, do what you can when you can. And like I spent like my entire hair appointment talking to my hair guy about Julian Assange. I was telling Steve earlier that I had an appointment with my shrink, and I went in there and talked about Julian Assange for like most of my appointment. And I mean, talk to your mom, talk to your grandma, talk to your cousin, your best friend from work, your neighbor, whatever, your babysitter, whoever it is, like just bring it up to anybody. Like you don't have to, even if you can't like go to a bar, or if like you have anxiety and stuff, because I do, like I have hardcore, if I, like big crowds, I get really nervous. So if you can't do that, then just do, like I always say, do what you can when you can. Like just go talk to people, like get off the internet maybe and like sit down and talk to somebody face to face, and just because a lot of people don't know, like they have no idea what's going on. So I think we talked about this off camera, maybe. I don't remember if we were on camera or not, but yeah. But yeah, like a lot of people just don't have a clue. They don't know what's going on, and you just have to talk to people.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap up here for this evening. We just wanted to bring everybody this pretty breaking, probably one of the biggest stories to come out in the last 5 years piece. The grand jury against WikiLeaks has officially been dismissed, and I think that's massive. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zigman. You can follow this on Twitter at action_4 Assange. And the one thing I want to leave people with tonight, beyond all of this great news, is don't give up your rights to fear. Use that fear as a motivator to make the change that is needed in our society right now. Because that's the only way that we're going to get through this, with human beings actually controlling their own system.
Hell yeah. I'm Steve Poikinen. I host a show called Slow News Day. You can find it on YouTube if you type in Slow News Day podcast into the search bar. this Sunday, I will be joined by Ian Schlackman, our good friend, and for the first time on my show, Reverend Annie Chambers, who came down with Ian when we had our event in front of the jail where Chelsea and Jeremy Hammond were incarcerated, barely 2 weeks ago. She's a local legend in organizing, and on top of that, her brother was Malcolm X's lieutenant. So it's gonna be a good talk, and I promised that I would keep her to like a short 5 hours. You can find me on Twitter at Slow News Day Show, and yeah, thank you for tuning in tonight. This is a win. It is. We should celebrate it. Misty.
Yeah, just thank you guys for having me on. I feel like a million emotions I think about all this, but yeah, you guys can, I'm on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. And just thank you guys for having me on. I'm really excited about your teach-ins. So let me know when those are starting up, because those are going to be dope as fuck. So I'm really pumped about that.
We'll need help distributing them too.
Okay.
Because we're going to reach out to people and then hope that they can distribute it down to their people, but also that we can get it trending and moving across social media as well.
Excellent. Well, you know where to find me. So thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Until next time, guys, good luck to us all.